everyone, it's Skiesti, and I am once again here to talk about Mercy's state in Overwatch 2 after playing 48 hours with her recent Superjump change. This is sort of a continuation of my previous video. I'm worried about Mercy in Overwatch 2, which you can feel free to check out, and I will leave a link in the description. Let's start small and work our way up. First, we have Mercy's unique self-regeneration passive. Although the passive is still unique for her, it works by amplifying the support role passive. Right now in Overwatch 2, Mercy's self-regeneration is worse than it is in Overwatch 1, which I received confirmation that yes, this is intentional. Since we're still in betas, I'm hoping this will change. The developer team seems to be focused right now on increasing Mercy's survival via Superjump, and it doesn't make a lot of sense if they're focused on making her survival better, why they would make her regen worse, which in turn causes her survivability to be worse. So not only is her self-regen worse, she doesn't have any other way to heal herself. Other supports have abilities or ways to heal themselves outside of the support role passive, whereas Mercy does not. Combine a self-regen that's now worse than in Overwatch 1 because it went from 1 second to 1.5 seconds, no additional way to heal yourself, and supports that don't peel from one another because of the role passive, and Mercy ends up being in a pretty tough spot. If you're interested in seeing a comparison before the regen nerf from 1 second to 1.5 seconds, I would highly recommend checking out Marvo's video. Resurrection feels quite out of place in Overwatch 2. Since the ability hasn't received any changes, it feels really slow and like there aren't many opportunities to actually use it because you have less protection and support available from your team. There's really not much to say here. I still use Res, of course, but I find myself with less opportunities unless they're incredibly safe. Players don't really enjoy playing against Res, and I understand, so I doubt we'll ever see it adjusted, which is pretty unfortunate. One of the big reasons why Mercy feels so bad in Overwatch 2, even though the 5v5 environment really should be better for her, is because of the importance of damage contribution. I was talking with a coach friend of mine about this, and because there's one less teammate, it means that everyone's damage contribution matters more. And normally, as Mercy, you either do no damage at all or very little damage. And then you add on to that the fact that Mercy does not have the ability to do more than one thing at the same time. Since her damage contribution comes mainly from damage amplification, whenever she has to swap to heal or go to res, her contribution gets reduced significantly, putting her at a disadvantage compared to other supports who are able to heal and do damage more competently than her. Essentially, the person that you're damage boosting as Mercy has to be doing really well to justify picking her. I touched on this a little when talking about damage contribution, but I really wanted to emphasize that Mercy only has the ability to do one thing at a time. She can either heal or damage boost or res or pistol. She can't do any of those things at the same time as one another, which makes her pretty outdated compared to the other supports that can do more than one thing at a time. Mercy also lacks a burst heal. While Mercy does have an AoE in her ultimate due to her chain beams, her neutral state does not have any sort of AoE or burst heal. Now, I'm pretty neutral when it comes to giving Mercy a burst heal. I could take it or leave it, but it is something that is mentioned frequently that I think is worth bringing up. A burst heal would potentially help her with being able to do more than one thing at a time, and also solve her self-regen problems that we discussed earlier. Oh, alright. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, Superjump. So the other day, we got a new teaser of the latest upcoming Superjump iteration. Keep in mind, this is the 4th iteration if you consider Superjump in Overwatch 1 as the first iteration of Superjump. So the developers are trying to make Superjump more accessible, more reliable, more consistent, more controllable, increase flexibility, and increase survivability. This 4th upcoming iteration will include a meter that charges while Mercy is using Guardian Angel. I assume it'll be similar to Baptiste's Exo Boots, and I believe it will work something like this, or at least this is how I interpreted the teaser. When pressing GA, your meter charges. If you cancel GA by GA, the meter isn't factored in. And if you cancel GA by jumping, the meter is factored in at whatever height it's at. I'm curious to see how it's going to work in close ranges. And I have one major concern about this iteration. They specify in the teaser that Mercy will now be launched into the direction she is facing. This seems to indicate that to be able to super jump, you'll have to look up to be able to do so, which seems really bad. If you have to look into the sky potentially every few seconds depending on how much you're using Superjump, you completely axe your point of view and won't have any idea what's going on during fights, and once you finish your Superjump, you'll have to spend time to reorientate and reassess the fight. The best thing I can compare it to is if someone on your team just like closed their eyes for a second every now and then, or just randomly looked at the ground for a second in the middle of a team fight. If you went into the replay and you saw like your Ana looking at the ground for a second every few seconds, you'd be like, this person is like throwing, what is going on? You're basically just losing out on a lot of awareness since your point of view is being completely negated for a second. In all of the iterations of Superjump in Overwatch 2, you can see that the idea of what they're trying to do is there, but the execution has been lacking in each iteration. I think there's a lot of potential in making Superjump into an ability with things like being able to Superjump mid-GA or being able to Superjump to players mid-air, but the way each iteration has been executed brings some sort of damaging trade-off that's just not worth it. Personally, I think the first iteration in the Overwatch 2 beta of Mercy Superjump has been the most successful so far, and it would be nice to see them go back to that and make adjustments to it. You know, I've heard a lot of people discussing that the devs are making Mercy Superjump easy, and this might be kind of a hot take, but I disagree. Sure, they're making it easier to access, which is what they want to achieve, and don't get me wrong, I'm all for giving more accessibility, but just because it's more accessible to perform doesn't make it easier to use or to be good with. Many people in my stream, when we talked about this, said that even though they could do a Superjump now when they couldn't before, they would frequently end up dying or they haven't been able to really push what you can do with it, and they just find it really frustrating to work with. At the end of the teaser, it stated, "We're looking forward to seeing how the community engages with this ability in the beta to get Mercy ready for the Overwatch 2 launch." Which, to me, sounds like this is the only thing they're planning to change for Mercy. If that's the case, based on what I've been talking about, I'm still incredibly worried about Mercy going into Overwatch 2. She's okay, I guess, but I'd like to see them do a little bit more for her. It's a bit disappointing that there hasn't been really any sort of attention paid toward other parts of her kit, other than a small change to Angelic Descent and a nerf to make her self-regen even worse than Overwatch 1. If the overarching goal is survivability, it seems they're going more and more in the opposite direction, unless this latest Superjump iteration turns out to be surprisingly really good. And trust me, I'd love nothing more than that, but if you're sacrificing your point of view and getting disoriented by having to look at the sky to Superjump, that seems like a massive pain point. And that's all from me for now. At this point, I'm admittedly getting a bit tired of constant changes to Superjump. I appreciate that they're listening and trying out different solutions, but I hope this isn't the devs' only plan when it comes to changes for Mercy, and I hope we eventually get to the point where we have a nicely working Superjump without terrible consequences or pain points. Please let me know in the comments what you think about the latest Superjump teaser or anything I've discussed about Mercy's state in Overwatch 2. When the new Superjump iteration comes out, I will definitely be making a video on that, so stay tuned. Thank you so much for watching, as always, and I will see you next time.
You